to specifically jump in on a little bit of things on Shattered, and then we'll bounce over to Aaron. I was curious about this before, but Maul apparently did not sense the inhibitor chip in Jesse, so he couldn't share this with Ahsoka. In turn, Ahsoka, I thought Maul might have noticed it and told her about it, but Ahsoka couldn't talk to Rex about removing it before Order 66 was given, and that was an incredibly powerful scene. His hesitation, him mentioning fives, it's really neat that he's able to do that versus immediately switch over. All the tie-ins to Revenge of the Sith, obviously they're all there. I loved Ahsoka's plan with the help of those droids, to get the chip out of Rex, and part of her plan is using Maul, which is brilliant. At the start, obviously in the next episode, we see what a mess Maul can make. So, in Maul's distraction, I had a lot of the vibes from Rogue One, just the way that he tears through the clone troopers. Posted this. You helped me post this extra Clone Wars trivia. We get to see FX7, which we originally saw from The Empire Strikes Back. So we get to see that action figure there in the medical bay scanning Rex. So that was so cool. To see something like that I've been playing with since a little kid. And then, of course, I'm in tears as Ahsoka says I guess, what do they call it? The Guardian mantra or something like that. I don't know. But that Chirrut Imwe does in terms of I'm one with the Force is with me. And I love that it ends on a cliffhanger a la Saturday morning serials. And I don't mean the serial we talked about before, but the serials that George Lucas and my dad went to go watch on Saturdays at the theater that would end on a cliffhanger. So those are just some opening thoughts on Shattered.
Very good. Very good. For me, Shattered, it's rare for a movie or a TV show or something to leave me 100% speechless about what I see. This episode goes down as definitely one of those rare moments for me. Shattered was absolutely incredible. For me, Shattered was the equivalent of of us telling Dave Filoni we love him, and him looking at us and saying, I know, while punching us directly in the gut. The way this arc is seamlessly tied in to Revenge of the Sith has just been mind-boggling for me, and the way it does it is just purely inspirational. I mean, it's incredible. I can't. I've said it. I say it all the time, but my Lord, Kevin Kiner he has to be the heir apparent to John Williams. There's nobody that can do what he does beside the Williams himself. His work is legendary in this arc, in this episode, and in this arc overall. It put it simply, man, if you could not shed a tear watching this episode, you must not be human, because this brought Order 66 into a new light, and it was completely incredible for me. I loved it. I'm getting chills just thinking about this episode and discussing this episode right now. It is that intense and that incredible. So, all right. So, of course, let's go ahead and take a look a little deeper into Shattered. Of course, like all the previous episodes beforehand, no fortune cookie. It has green Lucasfilm logo, the red Clone Wars logo, and it then jumps right into the episode. It picks up right where the previous episode left off. They've got Maul in custody, and and we go to probably a very familiar scene from Revenge of the Sith, which is, of course, that Jedi Council meeting where they're all gathered around in holograms and they're talking about Grievous being destroyed and everything going on Utapau. Was it Utapau?
Grievous is on Utapau, yeah.
Yes. Okay. So they're discussing everything. It's Cody had just left after giving them the update, and they're discussing about what's going to happen there. And Ahsoka, and apparently there was more to that conversation than met the eye in Revenge of the Sith, because after that conversation, Ahsoka shows up and informs them that they have Maul in custody. And I found this whole conversation very unique. And I don't want to get your thoughts on it, David, because we haven't talked about it. During the course of conversation, she's like, I'm not a Jedi. I'm just a citizen. And the discussion continues. And then it's brought up in the course of conversation with it's her, Mace Windu, Yoda. And Mace Windu says something along the lines of, well, that's up to the Chancellor at that point, and talk about how ending the war. And she's like, well, what does that mean? What do you mean? And Mace kind of gets a little snippy with her. He's like, well, that's for the council to be concerned about, not a citizen. I'm like, dude, he's, if she didn't have a problem with you before, she does now. What did you think of that scene where she's communicating with them?
Yeah, I finished Revenge of the Sith last night. I'd started on Saturday, I guess, and finished it last night on May the 4th, and watched, that hologram scene, and then obviously to see how Ahsoka plays into it was very neat how they did it. Mace is he's not the soft edge like Yoda is. And, it kind of reminds me of the end of season 5 when the Jedi Council turns on her and is wrong. And so, she's, I guess in that she was a little more, I guess Ahsoka was a little more standoffish in Old Friends Not Forgotten. But here you see Mace doing that. It doesn't surprise me coming from Mace, but I thought if anything, it's like he'd be like, "Hey, this is great. You're doing this. You're bringing Maul back in. Yeah, we'll let you in on this. We're at a critical stage in this whole fight." But I guess he's trying to go by Jedi rules, proving once more to Ahsoka. The big lesson she's learning is that how they're seen and what they should be, and that's why I think Ahsoka and Qui-Gon really epitomize what we'd like to see in Jedi. Mace can leave a bad taste in your mouth.
Oh, he definitely can, and definitely we saw him clash in the movies with Anakin, and now clashing with Ahsoka there. You're very right. He was being very Mace, and it was fun, very unique situation there, because Ahsoka pretty much set herself up for that by saying, I did my duty as a citizen, and they asked, then Yoda's like, not as a Jedi. And she's like, no, not yet, which makes me wonder. So the door apparently was open for her to return to the Order. So if Order 66 would not have happened, would she have gone back to the Jedi Order?
You wonder if she was, especially after the Martez sister arc,
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a huge deal there. I mean, that scene right there, so that whole conversation got me scratching my head, especially with the whole not yet And not yet usually means, it could happen. It's coming.
Well, what I really think about Aaron is not only through Shattered, but through Victory and Death, the big thing that comes up, and I've heard a lot of Star Wars fans talking about it, listening to some podcasts, is the whole thing of what if? What if Ahsoka was able to talk to Anakin one more time? What if, and it's so tantalizing. Our good friend Gary Clarkson has presented to you and me how he wanted the Clone Wars to end, with Anakin and Ahsoka defeating Palpatine and all that, with Yoda. So I liked his kind of the alternative universe option, but it really makes you feel like that. What if she would have returned to the Jedi Order? What if her and Anakin got to talk? What if they could have really listened to Fives, all of the clones, particularly Rex, and gotten this taken care of? A lot of what ifs.
Oh, definitely a lot of what ifs. But one thing we need to remember too is who had the biggest influence on Anakin's life. What was his biggest drive? It was Padme. So I honestly don't think, even if Ahsoka would have gotten back in touch with Anakin and had a conversation again with Anakin, I don't think it would have influenced the outcome, because his drive at that point was saving Padme.
Yeah, watching Revenge of the Sith again last night, you could see it. I mean, he even says it to the Emperor, just help me save Padme.
Yeah.
After he's helped kill Mace Windu. I mean, he's focused on Padme. And he even says right to the Emperor, I can't live without her.
Exactly. So to me, I don't think, all the what ifs, man, I'd love to see some of those what ifs, but at the same point, I don't see it altering the story outside of maybe if she doesn't make it out of Order 66 at that point, because she's in the Lion's Den at that point. She's near, if she's having that conversation with Anakin, she is wherever Anakin is. And if that order's given and she's there, I don't see Anakin not making sure the order's followed. Right. Especially if it meant saving Anakin or saving Padme. Because in the long run, it came to it. If both were in danger, Padme or Ahsoka, I think he would go with Padme.
Me too.
He cares a lot for Ahsoka. Absolutely. I have no doubt about that. But I don't see him.
Yeah. And Palpatine plays off of it. Yeah. I've heard people say, what if she was back on Coruscant, even before Obi-Wan and Yoda got there? Anakin and the 501st there were, rolling into the Jedi Temple, and she would have been killed, and most likely in that process.
Oh, absolutely. No doubt in my mind on that. So yeah, that's the what ifs are cool, but I just don't see a successful, her having any type of success in persuading Anakin, because of his drive is Padme at that point.
Yeah.
All right. So follow up to that, of course, we see they're leaving Mandalore to transport Maul back to the Jedi Council, and we see this prison cell, this device that they have Maul trapped in. And one thing I love about this scene is it's being escorted out by the Mandalorians, and it's what's super cool is you have Bo-Katan walking out, and to her right is a young Ursa Red. And of course, we've seen Ursa Red in the last several episodes, but this is the first time we've seen her without her helmet. And she is walking with young Ursa Red, walking with her helmet under her arm, with escorting Maul in this one-of-a-kind Jedi trap Force user trap that the Mandalorians had built